Hello students, once again we are back in our another session of political science. In the previous session we saw the part 1 of lesson number 4, the United Nations, that is UN. So let's begin with our part 2. Before beginning, let's quickly revise what we have seen or which were the major points we saw in our previous session. So the first point, the United Nations background. Second, chronology of the establishment of the United Nations. Third, the objectives of the United Nations. Fourth, principle of United Nations. Fifth, structure of the United Nations. Sixth, the important organs. From that, the first one was General Assembly. Then we saw the functions of General Assembly. After that, Security Council. We saw the functions of the Security Councils. Then we came to know the Economic and Social Council. And then we saw the functions of Economic and Social Council. So now today we are going to see the next topic, that is Secretariat. The Secretariat has the responsibility of carrying out the administrative tasks of the United Nations. The chief of the Secretariat is the Secretary General. He is elected by the General Assembly and the Security Council. His tenure is of 5 years. So students, talking about Secretariat, the word is very common and very simple to be understood. Basically, to make it brief and make it more simpler, I'll give the example of the commercial word secretary. In commerce, we use this word secretary for such a person who is working under the owner of the business or owner of the company. So he or she is said to be a secretary. Here, the secretariat is nothing but a person who is taking care of all the administrative tasks of United Nations. And the chief of the secretariat is Secretary General. Okay, so the chief of the secretariat is the Secretary General. He is the Secretary General, is the person who take care of the administrative tasks in United Nations. He is elected by the General Assembly and the Security Council. So both General Assembly as well as Security Council, they are electing this Secretary General, and his tenure is of only 5 years. So now let's see the function, students. First, to call international conference on global problems like climate change, human rights, disarmament, etc. Second, to organize the meeting of the General Assembly and Security Council. Third, to compile information. Fourth, to supply information to the media. So the first point, student, to call international conference on global problems, like whatever the problems which are created globally or worldwide, like climate issues or climate change issues, human rights, disarmament, on that it's such a big topic. Whatever the kind of an conference are needed at international level, those conference at international levels are being arranged or prepared by this general secretary general. Second, he also organized the meeting of the General Assembly and the Security Council. If on any topic this both the organs wants to discuss about, then the meeting is being arranged by the secretary general. Third point, to compile information. Now, whatever conferences are being held, whatever meetings are being held, whatever the things they decide in this conference and meeting, those all points are made together, combined together, and they are being arranged in the chronological order and maintained as a record. So, this maintenance of record is being done by the Secretary General. Compile means to gather the information, okay, or to combine the information, we can say. Fourth point, he supplies the information to the media, means whatever the things they decide in the meeting or the conference, the information which is to be informed to the public or to the citizen, those information is sent through the media, and that work is being done by the Secretary General. Let's go to the next point, students. International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice means the judicial branch of the United Nations. The International Court of Justice is located at the Hague in the Netherlands. There are 15 judges in the International Court of Justice. They are chosen by the General Assembly and the Security Council. Every judge has tenure of 9 years. So now International Court of Justice. Now we have heard about High Court, Supreme Court, Regional Court, all kind of a court we have been heard. But what is this International Court of Justice? Basically, students, not only state wise, city wise, or region wise, the crimes are being created, but yes, internationally also some of the crimes are being created. So to resolve those crimes, or to specifically make the justice for that crime, this International Court of Justice plays a very important role. Now, it is the branch of judicial in United Nations. Okay, this International Court is actually the judicial branch of the United Nations, and International Court of Justice is located at the Hague in the Netherlands. Okay, there are 15 judges in the International Court of Justice. So 15 different kind of judges are there, and it has been taken care of that the decision is made by the confirmation or by the recommendation of these 15 judges. They are chosen by the General Assembly and Security Council. So these 15 judges are also been chosen by the General Assembly and Security Council itself. Every judge has a tenure of 9 years. 15 judges, the 15 different judges has individual 9 years of tenure for the International Court of Justice. This is the unique one because till now we have heard only the tenure of 5 years or maybe 10 years. This is one of the unique one that the tenure of these judges are of 9 years. Let's see the function, students. First, to settle the disputes between two or more member nations of the United Nations. Second, to interrupt international law authentically. Third, to advise the various organs or subsidiary bodies of the United Nations about legal issues. So, students, the first point, to settle the disputes between two or more member nations of the United Nations. So, whatever the nations are involved in the United Nations and whatever the conflicts they have, those are been resolved. Okay, those disputes have been settled down by this International Court of Justice. Second, interrupt international laws authentically. Means whatever the olden days or old rules and regulations are being followed from many years, by looking forward to those rules and regulations or those laws, whatever the decision is taken according on the basis of those laws authentically. Third, to advise the various organs or subsidiary bodies of the United Nations about legal issues. Means what are the legal issues are created among the United Nations and the different kind of an organs who are working over there, whatever the legal issues are there, those legal issues are been taken over, managed, discussed and disclosed by this International Court of Justice. Talking about one more point, that is International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court is an inter or governmental organization and an international tribunal. Its headquarters are at The Hague in the Netherlands. The International Criminal Court has the jurisdiction to prosecute individual or international crimes of genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes that are of concern to the international community. So, International Criminal Court, the word itself discloses that whatever the crimes which are created at the international level, those crimes are being settled down, are being taken into consideration, what are the conflicts related to it, are being resolved. These all kind of things are being managed by the International Criminal Court. It can be any kind of an disputes, it can be any kind of an issues related to the international crime that has been resolved by the International Criminal Court. Going further, students, the Trusteeship Council. After Second World War, the territories that were undeveloped were placed under the responsibility of the developed nations. The latter were supposed to help bring about the development of the trust territories, and once they attain independence from their colonies, help establish democracy. The work of the Trusteeship Council is over as there are no trust territories left. Talking about the Trusteeship Council, students, nowadays we don't see Trusteeship Council because now each and every country is considered as the democratic country, okay, as a democratic nation. But this is a council which has been framed after the Second World War. Okay, so each and every country, was some countries were underdeveloped, some were developed, some were developing. So in such condition, whatever the developed nations were there, those were given the responsibility of the developing and the developed nations. So developed nations, they used to take care of the developing and the underdeveloped nations. So this is said to be and the Trusteeship Council, they have to take care of, and whatever the issues are being created, those issues have been resolved by the developed nations itself. So it was the internal things which were being internally dependent on one another. But nowadays such a kind of trusteeship councils are not being seen because we have all the nation as a democratic nations. Okay, so they are individually been managing their kind of an issues. The work of the trusteeship council ended when Palau got independence on 1st November 1994. Palau is an island in the Pacific Ocean 500-meter east of Philippines. So this trusteeship council ended in 1994, 1st November 1994. Okay. Going further, students, Millennium Development Goals. Let's first of all understand what is the word meaning of millennium. Millennium, that means a time span of 1000 years. Here, this Millennium Development Goals were being decided in 2000. So these decided goals were to be satisfied till 3000. So let's see. The United Nations member nations came together in 2000 and decided upon the development goals for the new millennium. Some of the important goals are as follows. First, to eliminate poverty and hunger. Second, to make the facility of primary education available. Third, to bring about women's empowerment, reduce infant mortality rate. Fourth, to take special care of the health of the pregnant women. Fifth, to fight disease like AIDS, malaria, etc. Sixth, to protect the environment and increase the cooperation between developed and developing countries. So these were the six main pillars, or we can say main goals of Millennium Development Goals, which were been decided in year 2000. So the first were to eliminate poverty and hunger. That means to reduce, to completely vanish the issue of poverty and hunger. Secondly, to make the primary education available for each and every one. That was the most important thing. Once the people are educated, when the citizens are educated, obviously the living standard of the people will also increase. Third point, to bring about women's empowerment and reduce infant mortality rate. So obviously the in the citizenship or in the population, the women and children are given the priority, or the more importance is given to them. So related to them, the first thing, that means women should be empowered, strengthened, okay, so that the nation will also strengthen, and to reduce the infant mortality rate. Those were the very two basic things which the millennium development goals were being decided. Third point, sorry, fourth point, to take special care of the health of pregnant women. So as we discussed that the women were given the priority or importance, so obviously here we give the importance to the pregnant women also, because during olden times we didn't knew what all things were going on related to the pregnant woman, what all treatment was going on. But now because of the science and technology, we can go beyond the some kind of limits, and we have cured many things. We have saved many kind of pregnant women from having the danger of their life. Okay. The next point, to fight disease like AIDS, malaria, etc. Not only AIDS and malaria, students, nowadays cancer is also been spreading all over. Previously, we were just known of some kind of cancer like blood cancer and all. But now a cancer can happen in any part or in any organ of your body. So it is a very dangerous thing. So how we have to fight against them, or how we can reduce the kind of in danger which is being created by this AIDS, malaria and cancer. So these all things were also been decided in the Millennium Development Goal. And the last point, to protect the environment. Yes, the environment is very, very important because we get the basic resources from it and we are dependent on it directly or indirectly. And to increase the cooperation between developed and developing countries. As we know pretty well, if somebody is stronger than the other, then the stronger person will always demoralize, demotivate, or pressurize the weaker person. So same like that, whoever developed nations were there, those nations were always been demoralizing, demotivating and pressurizing to the developing and underdeveloped nations. So these rules were being taken into consideration, or these goals were being taken into consideration in year 2000 to achieve it till the next span of time duration of 1000 year, that is till 3000 year 3000. A time period has been decided to achieve these goals. India has made considerable progress in the direction of achieving the Millennium Development Goals with the help of UNICEF and UNESCO. Students, yes, a specific time duration was being decided to how to achieve and when to achieve, and in what number of things we can achieve by this time span of 1000 year. And after taking such a kind of a decision, or a decision were been taken during the Millennium Development Goal, and after that the nations, all the nations or United Nations started achieving it as early as possible. So they made a progressive step related to that topic. But India also made a considerable progress in the direction of achieving the Millennium Development Goals. But that too with the help of UNICEF and UNESCO. So whatever the six major points are there, for that purpose, UNICEF and UNESCO are playing a very important role. UNICEF means it is an affiliated organization of United Nations which work towards making the nutritious food and health care available to the children. Even they are having several workshops where organized several workshops which have been organized in India to find out measures to overcome malnutrition among the babies and children. So UNICEF is taking care of related to the children and infants. And UNESCO, it is also an another affiliated organization of the United Nations which works towards peace and security in the world by promoting correlation between member countries in the field of education, science and culture. So UNESCO is basically working for the unity and peace. Going further, students, the next point is United Nations and preservation of peace. The objective of the United Nations is to settle international conflicts peacefully. The United Nations Charter lays down the ways and means to be employed to achieve this goal. It includes appointing an intermediary acceptable to the nations involved in the conflict, use the legal procedure, appoint an arbitrary to solve the dispute, and if needed, to take recourse to military means and ensure that conflict will not occur again. In modern times, human security has been threatened by terrorism, racist, and religious conflicts. As a result, the function of securing peace of the United Nations has acquired a lot of importance. So students, talking about the United Nations and preservation of peace, yes, United Nations has always taken a step related to how to maintain peace in the whole world. So the first step which was been decided to maintain peace by reducing the conflicts, by reducing the complications, by reducing the kind of in threatening things like terrorism, racist and regional conflicts. Even wherever the kind of a mediators were needed, mediators, that means a person who is taking a very important part in resolving the issues among the two different countries, these are said to be mediators. So those are were also been appointed so that they can resolve, or they have the capacity to resolve the issues. Even wherever the kind of a strength, physical strengths were needed like military power, okay, or any kind of an other power which can reduce and which can maintain the relationship among the two different countries, those steps were also been taken to maintain peace and security of the whole world. So such a kind of an crucial steps and manageable steps were been taken by United Nations. Going further, the United Nations makes of efforts to ensure that violence does not erupt in strict-tone areas and normalcy is restored as soon as possible. By, for example, starting school, creating awareness among the people about human rights, make social, economic, political facility available, conduct election, etc. So, students, the United Nations also takes of efforts to ensure that violence does not erupt, that there should be no any kind of an violence. Stripped on areas means, students, area where the human beings are very aggressive, or if they by mistakenly come in front of one another, the war kind of an condition may arise. So, in such a areas are said to be stripped on areas. And to maintain peace and harmony over there, United Nations is taking a good enough efforts for the resolutions. So, for making it more simpler and making it more developed, or to maintain peace and harmony among the nation, the first thing which is to be done is to start school, which creates the awareness among the people, or such a kind of an awareness program should be held, so that humans should know even human rights or any kind of a social, economical, political facilities should be available. Okay, the election should be conducted fair. Okay, fair election should be conducted, such a kind of a thing should be done so that the peace and harmony will be maintained. Going further, students, we have United Nations peacekeeping. This is the very important part, students. United Nations peacekeeping. The peacekeeping activity of the United Nations involves creating appropriate circumstances favorable for bringing about permanent peace in strict-tone areas. The peacekeeping force help these areas to progress towards peace. In conflict ridden areas, security is provided and at the same time help is extended for the establishing peace. The United Nations takes up peacekeeping as one of the tasks for safeguarding and fostering peace in the world. Following things are other actions the United Nations may take supplementary to peacekeeping activities. So, students, talking about the United Nations peacekeeping, the word itself tells us that these specific group or the specific activity has been taken over just to maintain the peace and harmony in the whole world. So, whatever the kind of an help is needed, wherever the physical help is needed or any kind of an other help is needed, the help is being provided by the United Nations peacekeeping force. These force is basically helping in the areas to progress towards the peace. They try to reduce the conflict between the strict tone areas. Even they try to create such a kind of insecurity, or they take the specific step to maintain this peace and harmony in the particular region wherever the violence has been created. Even the United Nations takes up the peacekeeping as one of the tasks. Okay, it is just not a kind of an goal, but it is also a task for the nation, because we know there are n number of complications here in the family. In one family, there are n number of complications. So you can imagine whole worldwide at the international level what kind of an conflicts might be created. So these all things the United Nation has to manage. So yes, United Nation has such a kind of a peacekeeping force, which is a biggest helping hand for them to maintain peace and harmony in the nation. So, with addition to that, here are some of the supplementary activities which have been done by this peacekeeping force. So, the first, prevention of conflict and mediations. So, the whatever conflicts or whatever complications are created, those complications will be reduced, prevented, or we can say stopped. Second point, actually establish peace. That means they have to make the root of this peace and harmony very much strong. Third, implement the measures of protecting peace. So they should take care of that the peace should be maintained. It should not distract or it should not disturb. The last point, that is peace building. Whatever the peace and harmony is been uh, dwelling right now in the world at the different pace, that should be remain forever. The last point, the United Nations and India. So what is the relationship of United Nation and India, or India and United Nations? So let's see. India had participated in the different conferences that were held before the establishment of the United Nations. India has participated in bringing issues like decolonization, disarmament, racial segregation on the United Nations platform. So, students, India has always been given its helping hand in understanding and knowing it that the peace and harmony is the very important part. If we know and if we have learned in history, the India has played a pivotal role in maintaining peace and harmony, because India was the only country during that moment who supported the non-alignment movement. India didn't wanted to have any kind of a war, okay, after the first world or the second world war, okay, the conditions which was been arrived at, India was not supporting to the war. So from then onwards, this all support towards the peace and harmony has been done by our nation. And India was always stepping forward for reducing the issues like decolonization or disarmament, to bring, okay, in participate in the and bring in the issues like decolonization or disarmament, racial segregations on United Nations platform. So India has always been taking care of this peace and harmony a lot. In 1946, India was the first country to raise the question of racism in the United Nations. India has always led the discussion about the problems of undeveloped and developing countries. India has always sent her troops to participate in the United Nations peacekeeping force. Not just that, India has sent an all women peacekeeping force as well. It is evident from the foregoing analysis that India makes serious efforts to solve international conflicts by peaceful means. So, students, in 1946, India was the first country to raise the question related to racism. Racism was there all over, but nobody raised the question in front of United Nations or in front of other countries. But India was the first nation to put up such a problem in front of the all the nations, so that it can be resolved and the peace and harmony of the nation, all the countries, can be maintained. Not only that, India also participated and sent the troop in the peacekeeping force in the United Peacekeeping Force. Not only that, even the troop was being sent in all women peacekeeping force as well. So this shows that how much of contribution India has given for maintaining the peace and harmony worldwide or at the international level. So that was the last point, students. I hope you must have understood all the points of the lesson. So let's end forward today's session, students. In the next coming session, we will see the next lesson of history, that is lesson number 6, empowerment of women and other weaker sections. So I hope you are staying happy and healthy at your home, students. Take care. Bye.